Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Conversations with the Feathered Serpent. Remember to like and subscribe, and more importantly, comment and engage with us. We are out to find those that our messages really resonate with and build our tribe. Remember, these conversations tend to flow into one another. So different episodes will actually be one full conversation that I've had with him, and we've had to cut it off and condense it into smaller chunks. So enjoy this conversation and stay tuned for more.
Yeah, so I can customize or fine-tune the communication for the audience, for the listener. And small groups of people or individuals, that's easy to do when you're doing it, or not easy, but that's relatively straightforward to do. But when you're talking to a blind audience of possibly a variety of levels of understanding, you are trying to throw bullseyes at a dartboard you can't see. So inevitably there will be miscommunication, misunderstanding, people getting triggered, all this kind of stuff. Some people just won't like hearing this from a male. Some won't like hearing it from a white male. Some people, and all of those things are okay. I don't care. It doesn't matter, right? Go find somebody else. And if it does, then be happy. Okay. My intention is to bring about an understanding of things that are important for people to understand so that they can have a healthy, fulfilled life. And if the particular messenger doesn't suit you, go find another one. Anything less is ridiculous. Somebody who needs everybody to see the same thing and receive the same thing is a fool. So I say this as a caveat to people who have, maybe they would like me to talk less or talk more or this or criticize. Here's the thing, people. If you criticize something, you're wasting your time. It is what it is. You either are going to take something from it beneficial to you, or you should go somewhere else. And understand that because I don't know who is listening and I don't know their level of understanding or their background or their other issues, it's very difficult for me to tiptoe through this minefield that they have implanted in their head of hypnotic soft blocks that are designed to trigger their rejection of this science. And quite frankly, I don't care. It's not for me to be concerned about all that.
Right. People are getting a little trapped in the whole, he calls himself or he says he's a feathered serpent. And I've tried to explain, if you can't get past that,
go away, fuck off, see you later, bye-bye.
It's not
I don't
about
care.
that.
Yeah, I just told people the truth. If
Yeah.
they don't want to understand the truth, they don't want to accept the truth because they're being triggered for whatever reason that white people aren't supposed to use certain words in certain ways. And this is the truth that happened. If you're meant to hear this, then you will understand it and you will be happy about it. And if not, well, then you can fuck right off. You're not ready for it.
It's a feathered serpent. It's not a cute little puffy fish.
If you do your research from the individual called Viracocha to all of the individuals, they all are expressed as somebody that had a very authoritarian demeanor, was thick-set, wasn't playing games, and came to bring about an understanding of the Earth grid and how it could be used to bring peace and bounty anywhere on the planet. Right. That is my concern, to communicate how to do that. It's not my fault that I happen to have been born with the knowledge. Go talk to somebody else if I trigger you because I'm supposed to be of a different skin shade or a different sexuality or this or that. That's your business. I don't really give a fuck. I am what I am. I'm going to continue to be that. And if you don't like it, well, there's a bazillion other fucking ways to waste your time and distract yourself and learn something. And like you just said, Kat, if you're getting stuck on that, then that probably means you're not ready. So move along. Don't waste any more of your time watching this then.
Right.
And every person who's come out and said, this is what I understand to be true, and this is my reality, and this is what I have to share, has been criticized because that is a component of people who are in pain. They want to inflict pain on other people. They want to create the same uncertainty that they have. They want to say, see, feathered serpent. I had a gentleman that I met at an engineering conference call me up years later and apologize because in the engineering conference, he looked at my business card and he saw that it has a logo of the feathered serpent on it. And he was like, serpent. And he's Christian. So serpents are bad. So he moved me into the evil category and didn't want anything to do with me. Years later, after some of the people that had continued contact with me from that conference had told him that I'd helped them a lot, he called me up and apologized because unfortunately he had been having some trouble in his church and he was beginning to realize that he had been closed off to a lot of things because of his preconceptions. And I said, well, the irony is you never gave me an opportunity to define myself or explain myself. You just judged it, and you judged it incorrectly. He said, well, why do you use the serpent? I said, well, look, just map out. A lot of the sacred things have a geometry to them. And if you map this geometry out, it's sort of self-explanatory. Feathered, what's that? That's high. Serpent, low. Somebody that would be a feathered serpent might be in the middle of those two things, at the harmonic convergence point of those two perspectives. And maybe other cultures, because it wasn't his name that he called himself, as an honorarium to let people understand why this person is a teacher and able to comprehend connections that most people can't see, is because they occupy this position. Now, there's another such position, Christ consciousness.
Right.
Christ consciousness is a term that describes an individual who is both connected to their individual illusionary self and the higher awareness that we're all one simultaneously, like straddling two fences. Now, we called that person a Christ because they had attained that ability. They had attained the perspective of being both aware of the individual and the collective simultaneously. Other cultures call it the same. Now people are going to say, oh, he's just called himself Christ. No, I did not. See, if you're looking for problems, you will fucking find them. You will find them because everything is imperfect and you're going to fucking find problems here. Oh, look, that hair is out of place. Oh, look, there's a booger in my nose. Look, I didn't have a nice voice that day. I don't like if you're that kind of person that's getting stuck on all of those things in the Garden of Eden, then you are going to suffer greatly. And quite frankly, you deserve it because you're a dumb shit. So keep being a dumb shit, keep fucking suffering, and eventually when you get on the other side, you'll realize why you were the dumb shit. And that's what this is all about, education, about learning. So since I am in no way transmitting anything but the truth that I perceive, I don't really care. I don't care where. It's not about me caring if I hit the bullseye. It's not about me caring. I can't care because in caring, it means that I'm worried about being not what you want.
Well, and through the conversations that we've had, you've also shared information that it doesn't matter really how you know it, although I find it's kind of cool. But information from Nikola Tesla, right? And you've shared with me that he is one of your guides.
Well,
And
that wasn't even me. See, all this information that helped me understand the truth
right,
wasn't anything I was seeking.
right.
So that story of how that came about was something ridiculous. I was about to go into the military. My parents, I was 17 at the time. I'd signed up. And during the age of 15 to 17, I had gotten away from all spiritual things. I was just trying to fit in the box, trying to be a good, normal human. And I had signed up for the military, took the test, everything was good. And my parents had said, they came down one day and they're like, oh my God, we just had this amazing experience. And I was like, oh, what's that? And they're like, well, there's a traveling psychic that just came through town. He's up at the hotel. He's amazing. And I was like, you guys just got conned. There's no such thing as psychic abilities. It's all hogwash. You just got fooled by a traveling con man. And they're like, no, he knew stuff that nobody knows. That it was, well, whatever, it's a waste of time. So they're like, well, too bad we bought you a session and you're going up there because we already paid for it. Now, when I went up there, I did not want to be there. I did not want to give this guy anything. I was determined I was going to sit there with a stone face and give this guy nothing. What a con man. So I go into his hotel room and he very briskly and surprisingly to me, didn't sound too happy to see me either. And he just said, sit down in the chair, shut up, and I'm going to walk around you 3 times, and that's tuning into your energy field, and then I'll begin talking. And when I begin talking, you press record on the tape recorder, shut up, and wait until I'm done, and then you can ask me 3 questions, and then you can get out. And I was like, geez, that's not a very typical con man. He seems to be rather blunt and brutal, whatever. So he just starts talking and he says, oh, so that's interesting. He said, over your left shoulder right now is your guide. And that's the thing about Tesla. And I said, no, because of course we didn't learn anything about Tesla in high school on purpose, I would hazard a guess. And I hadn't heard anything about this individual. Nor did I understand that all my little private thoughts were completely in alignment to what Tesla talks about until years later when I read a book about it.
Yeah.
So where do you get these unconscious alignments? Where do you get thoughts that I'm having when I'm 6 years old that are echoed by people who are like writing books? I can't tell you. All I can tell you is I've been a freak since the moment I was born. So it's all authentic, accidentally perfect situation. So he's telling me that Tesla is my guide. And he said that you're going to find that you understand everything Tesla wrote without even trying. I could care less at this. I didn't care. I didn't blah. He told me a bunch of other things that ended up happening and coming true. And years later, he said he saw me moving around and being in a lab with a lab coat. And years later, my dad phones me up, and I hadn't thought anything about this. Now, intervening years, of course, I went to school. I went into physics and advanced education, not in the military I had planned. I had met a woman. She changed the course of that trajectory. And all of a sudden, my dad calls up and he's like, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm in the lab working. He goes, what are you wearing? I said, well, my lab coat. Duh. And he said, so guess what? Me and your mom were cleaning out the basement. We found that tape. Remember that psychic when you were 17? And oh, you're right. Well, so much of what that guy had said had happened. Some people say, well, he programmed your subconscious. Well, no, it's not like that. I literally years later picked up a book about Tesla and could completely and effortlessly understand everything that he was talking about. And it almost served as a catalyst. That's what I mean. I would read a sentence and half a book would unfold in my brain.
Right.
It was almost like the sentences were catalyzing memories.
Right.
Okay? So I don't understand what happens to other people. That's just what happened to me. And it's kind of like when I listen to people who are outside of the societal boxes describing how they came to their awareness that they were maybe gay or a certain type of person. It was a gradual waking up to, you know what? This whole thing, and then finally, after many decades of work and study, especially when I began to operate in a way to help people, so either helping people understand things that they couldn't understand or healing them, all of a sudden it was like more memories came back and more and more and more. And so that's just what happened. So it was more like waking up into a memory. And then when I did the research about this person or these people, just like the Tesla stuff, there was an effortless integration with the memories, with the knowledge. Why was the thing I was working on exactly what this person had worked on thousands of years ago? Why do I physically resemble this person? Which there are vibratory explanations for, by the way, if you go into it. Why did my own children, when there's another incidents that happened without going too much into it, but I've said to my children that you can speak with plants and animals since they're born, and they're multilingual. They speak French and Spanish and English. And so speaking to plants and animals was nothing new to them. But one day I sent them to talk to these 2 giant cedar trees in a park. And I said to ask these trees 3 things. One, how to deal with their particular individual problems. My one son had a issue with confidence, wanted to know how to be more confident. The other son had an issue with controlling his energy because he has an abundance of it.
And they were like 7 or 8?
One was, I think, 7, one was 8, around there. And when I sent my one son to ask the tree how to deal with his energy, he came back and he said something that was very unusual. And at the time, I wasn't even prepared to think it was anything more than childish imagination. You need to understand. I wasn't going, oh, this is something big, until when he came back and he said something in a lexicon he never used. So that's when I went, maybe there is actually something going on here. So I sent them to the two big cedar trees and basically interviewed them separately, and they came back with the same story. The second and third thing I asked them to tell or ask the tree was, who are you and why did you come here? And who am I? I did not know what they were going to say. I did not tell them any part of this as a precursor in terms of priming them with a
Right.
output, but they came back and they both said the exact same thing. They said they were my apprentices the last time they were here, and if they didn't come back and help me, I would fail again establishing the grid on the earth. And I said, well, what did it speak to you? One son said he heard voices. The other son said he saw images.
Right.
And the one that saw images said that he saw me, and then he was on one side and his brother was on the other side. And I was dressed in a feathered cloak with a feathered headdress and had a longer reddish beard. And we were overlooking a project, and we had a lot of pride in the completion of this project, and we were standing on top of a pyramid. Now, I think so. I'm not looking for these answers. They just happen to accidentally fall into my lap, and they line up perfectly with the knowledge I possess. So you can call me whatever the fuck you want. I don't really care. I happen to have an understanding of this knowledge, and the person that did in the past was called that.
Right.
It was also called other things such as Kukulkan or Viracocha. In other words, it was usually an honorific given to a very knowledgeable teacher who was teaching people how to have bounty and peace wherever they were on the planet. So you can call me bumbling dumb fuck. I don't care, as long as you use the knowledge to fucking get the information in play, which will allow you to have peace and bounty anywhere on the planet. That's the big fucking point. So I understand how to do that scientifically. If you want to understand how to do that, then you'll shut the fuck up and listen. And if you don't, then you move the fuck on. I don't care. I'm not here to play identity politics. I'm sorry I'm white. I'm sorry I have a red beard. I'm sorry I have a voice the way I do. But you might wonder why the universal consciousness put the package that you needed to listen to in such a fucking annoying way. Maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe that is about something you need to heal inside you.
Right. Triggers are going off, everyone. Go.
Right. And that's just it. Why do we have these triggers?
Right.
What's going on?
Right.
I'm helping a person close to me who's involved recover from a heart attack. And without sharing too much, he's come a long way. He's been restored to optimal health. He's healthier than he's ever been. He does Qigong twice a day. Yet, we just had a conversation yesterday about why he hasn't told his mother he had a heart attack 2 years ago. And in that conversation, he finally understood that if he has an issue with telling his mother, then that means there's still an energetic blockage inside him, right? So when these triggers happen, as a course I took once said, look, these people don't know you. So one of the exercises was you'd stand up and you'd have about 40 teachers stand up in a semicircle around you, and they'd all hurl it various things at you. And they said, before this exercise, realize these people don't know you. They don't know anything about you. They're just throwing words at you so you can find out where your sticking point is. Now, some people who were chubby, when they said, you're fat, didn't blink at all.
Right.
Didn't even have an issue with it because they didn't mind that. But then they broke down in tears when somebody said you're incompetent, because that triggered a belief within themselves. So this dovetails into healings and dovetails into when the universe brings something that causes a triggering situation. It's to look in that mirror and